So today we're doing a study session, which I don't do usually. Usually I would do maybe like uh, some coaching on my channel, but this cool guy called Sense in Pants, is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
All right, this cool guy called Sense in Pants. Can you also introduce yourself to the stream?
All right, hi guys. I started playing poker about 7 years ago. Mainly I play Pot Limit Omaha for the past 2 years, but I've played No Limit Hold'em for about 5 years before I transitioned over, and I've played up to 400 NL, and for Omaha I've played up to 2550, which is pretty huge, I think. And so I have a lot of experience using PioSolver as well as Solver. And mostly I don't have any, well, I don't do much in the poker community. I just basically sit at home and grind all day, and that's my
Yeah,
life.
just like most poker players are, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Most poker players just like to sit in their pajamas and do like just sit in their PJs and just wake up and have something or order something or have something to eat and then just maybe either go out or then just grind, right? Like
Yep.
if you're like a poker player, you don't necessarily need to you don't necessarily need to have I don't know like a certain routine, right?
Yeah.
So, but do you have a certain routine, by the way?
Well, for me, I normally I wake up, have some breakfast, and then mostly I'll start studying. So it can be working with PO, can just be looking back at some of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But because I play quite high stakes for Omaha, I try to identify who are the racks that I normally face, gain some reads on them, understand what their pre-flop game is about and how that transitions to their post-flop game. And I just try to break them basically before they can break me and see
Yeah.
whether they are countering my strategy. And then so that's what I do on a daily basis in the morning. Uh, in the afternoon, I normally go for classes because I'm still studying. And then when it's nighttime, I start my grind, maybe about 4 or 5 hours every day, and then I do it again the next day. So that's my daily
So
routine.
that's your routine basically, and by studying, you generally mean studying other regs to see their flaws, and then seeing if you can like exploit those flaws, right?
Right, that's right.
So you can actually try to find the right spots in which you can make money off them, and then you can also figure out if they figured out what you figured out about them.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, so I guess we'll just go into a few hands here, and is it solver time? How's it going, Wolfkind? What's up? Yeah, it's solver time. We're gonna go through hands. I actually selected a few hands here. I have some mind hands from Linus and from OTB. I actually marked a few of them. I'm gonna be. Oh, by the way, Sense, can you see my screen still?
Yeah, I can.
Okay,
Let's go, man.
awesome. So I actually had like a lot of questions about these hands, but I'll see how in depth I can go, um, because maybe I'm not figuring out some of the stuff that you might be figuring out, or vice versa. So we'll just see. We'll just see.
All right.
Let me just see where I marked. I think like if I click this, the mark hands will work. Ah, there we go. Okay. I actually pioed a few of these hands, so I managed to pio 4 hands before the stream, which is I think is good. So I'll also import the trees in a little bit when we actually get to the hands. Um, but I think that there are some really cool spots on which I want to pick your brain, right,
Okay.
about
All
them.
right.
So this is a pretty simple spot, right? This is 3 bet. You can see my screen, right? Everything is fine. Okay.
Yep.
This is simple 3 bet, right? 12 blinds, 3 bet versus this is 10-20, no ante. 12 by 3 bet versus button helmets, button calls. Flop is pretty okay to go. I think full range 1/3. Do you have any objections to that?
No, I think it's pretty good.
in this certain spot. I think like Baron actually likes to check here, so flop goes check check, which is also completely fine. Maybe you have like a part of your range that wants to just maybe you don't have like enough value, right? Because I don't know, maybe some aces you actually don't want to be betting, like some suited aces, right? Like ace nine down to like ace deuce and stuff. Maybe you don't want to do that. So turn it heats up a little bit. He bets like 354. So this is basically like a 70% pot. We see a call, and this is the interesting side. So 1.5x over bet all in because effective stacks are 1900 here. Helmets calls. As I know and as I think, Helmets is a reg. So I was actually interested in this call because so Baron jams 7-6 suited, and then we see a call with Queen 10, which is very interesting to me. Is this basically like a blocker call? Because on the river, like I get it. On the river, we see a very polarized bet, right? So
Right.
what's Baron's value range here? A 6-7 6-7 of diamonds is like a rarity, right? It's like a one combo. I would say that it's maybe like aces 10s, right?
Yep.
Ace 10 and maybe ace king
Definitely.
because of how the action went, right? Because it went like check check on the flop, and now opponent's range is a little bit capped. You go for the 70% on turn, overbet 1.6 whatever x shove river, right? So I guess value range. I guess maybe Helmets would think that value range would also include ace queen. Would you play ace queen the same way?
Ooh, I think
Is it
ace
too
queen.
close?
I think it's too close because I think if I have ace queen on the river, okay, well, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
If I were to just think about the river for this hand, you can, uh, you have three options. One is to check and trap, right, with the straight. Two
Yeah.
is you can bet small, and three is you can jam.
Why would
And
you? Sorry, I'll listen to you and then ask. Yeah.
okay, so I think betting small is it's a really good play if let's say you have something like ace king, ace queen, and
Yeah,
you're trying
you're
to get
kind of like dividing your range into like two bets, right? Dividing into
right,
like
right.
one is overbet and one is like maybe something like half pot.
Yeah, yeah,
Ace
yeah, yeah.
queen, ace king, ace jack even, right?
Correct. Yes, that's
Okay.
right. And I think like such a play is really complex because of how you have to split your range really nicely, and maybe OTB doesn't really want to deal with that, so his only play is to jam or check. And if you do that, then I think ace king and ace queen is a perfect hand to just jam the river with after villain caps his range on the flop and on the turn. Um, but
Do you
as for
think
helmets call, right?
villain caps his range by just calling turn?
Yeah. I mean, well,
It
okay.
seems right because there's turn is really drawy, right? I mean, it's scary. It
Yeah.
should be a lot of raising going on.
Well, but I think if I were villain, right, sitting in position, I wouldn't want to have a raising range because it's first of all it's hard to balance. And second of all, even if you do manage to balance it, right,
Yeah.
uh, I think it's still pretty like value heavy because like what are you gonna put as bluffs? Jack nine, uh,
Maybe some draws, I guess.
yeah, some draws and like but mostly they consist of like diamond plus straight draws, diamond plus gutter draws, so like Broadway draws with diamonds and stuff. And like against a three betting range, I wouldn't want to pile in the money on the turn that deep, like because once you get check raised and with that kind of equity, you really just have to call your stack off,
Yeah.
and that really sucks. And I think the imposition player with a diamond draw and a gutter or like a diamond draw with a straight draw or whatever kind of draw, he really wants to just like
Yeah, just flat.
call,
Just
yeah,
flat,
just
yeah.
flat, and like hopefully OTB overplays his hand and then he can get some more value with his mate hand, or he can just get away if he doesn't hit. And I think that's the best play for the imposition player.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the queen ten call is really close because well your range is really capped unless you like turn pocket eights or like you revert fives like
Yeah. I
10x
don't think you can
like
river
10x
fives. Yeah.
that
I don't think you can river fives
yeah
because
yeah
you're not calling
because you wouldn't call
turn.
the turn, yeah. So you can have some sort of like weird two pair like 4-5.
You could though just check back flop with some sets, right? Like fours and
In
tens.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, but I don't think it's really like GTO recommended when to check back sets in position. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
this rule like holds true like in Omaha and no limit. So but it's a good play, like to be honest. It's a really good play because when you check back in position, like you're really expecting OTB to bet the turn. It's like an
Yeah,
extra bet.
he's a
Because
player that really attacks capped ranges, right? So you want to
yeah,
slow play as much as possible, but not like to an insane amount. But I'd say maybe checking 30% on the flop sets would be fine.
yeah, that's right.
And
Uh,
I think betting ace 10 would make more sense on the flop.
right.
I mean, not really, not necessarily, because you're kind of blocking his calling range, aren't you, with ace 10? So you'd want to check that even more, I think.
I think you can either go for a check or you can bet something like 1/4 pot, which is like what Snowy would probably recommend in my opinion, because I've been playing around with it and like if let's
Mm-hmm.
say a villain checks back a three betting range that consists highly of like ace king, kings, queens,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Mm-hmm.
have a hand like top two and you kind of like know what he has because his range is like pretty transparent. It's either air or like a middling hand like kings, queens. You really want to like keep him in the pot,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
bet
yeah,
25%,
yeah, yeah.
and see how it goes from there, depending on how the turn changes the board texture and stuff.
Yeah,
So that might be a good
I don't think out of position can ever fold a pair to like a quarter pot. So
right,
that's a decent argument.
right. But Kings has like maybe 15% against like Ace 10
Mm-hmm,
on the
mm-hmm.
flop. So that's a really pretty good like value bet you get in on the flop when you're ahead
Yeah,
against the three betting range. Yeah. So that's my opinion on it.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. What I would say is that on this river, the Queen 10 call is really interesting. Um, in real game, I'd probably fold it. I think the call is because I believe Helmets also thinks that his range is capped, and at this point, Baron will attack pretty much with like a lot,
Yeah.
and he's blocking like mainly widening his value range for like Ace Queen, so he's blocking that, and also blocking the tens and the Ace 10, which is okay. So it's sort of like a nuts or air kind of situation.
Yeah.
Also, you said something about checking the straight on the river, and I really like that.
Yeah.
I think this 7-6 would actually be like maybe like an 80% check, because you're really not blocking either villain's value range or his bluffing range,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're only blocking like ace 6 and ace 7 of diamonds, and that's it. But the other parts that will call the turn and then try to bluff the river, you're not blocking that. So that's great. Um, Aside from that, I think that this hand kind of it's really weird. Like when I see these calls, I'm like, what the hell is going on? But
Yeah, man.
I'll load this tree. I think I have it. Ace 4 10. This is yeah. Yeah, this is what I saw like right before the stream. So this is my imposition call versus 3-bet range. Um, mostly contains some any suited ace, some of them with like less frequency. Some suited gappers with like 75, suited two gappers 25%, most suited connectors, most pairs, and threes and deuces like half the time. Is that a range that you'd agree with?
I think it depends on how you wanna formulate your four betting strategy. Cause like I would prefer to four bet a hand like ace four, ace three, ace deuce suited. But I think overall calling in position with suited aces can't really go that wrong. So yeah, I think I can agree with this range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And three betting range mostly is also wide. Um, I went for some of these suited aces.
Yep.
Um, I don't know, king queen suited, all suited broadways mostly half the time. Um, most suited connectors, suited gappers 1/3 of the time, and then queens plus ace king almost pure. Ace queen suited pure, ace king offsuit 75%. So
Yep.
yeah, this is kind of like a big blind 3-betting range that to me
That's
would look like something decent.
yeah.
How do you one question that I have would be, how do you randomize this when playing? Do you use a randomizer?
You mean like how do I choose my four betting hands? Like when I
Like for
randomize.
example, when you have a hand that you only 3-bet 25% of the times.
Okay. I actually pick a suit before I start playing, so
Mm.
yeah. So
Okay.
so like so for me, I always pick a suit to start. So like let's say today is gonna be a day where if I have to pick 25%, it's gonna be clubs,
Yeah.
followed by diamonds, then spades, then hearts. So
Oh,
that's
so
how I do
that's
it.
your order. So if it's like 50% is like clubs, diamonds, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you also use that on like the offsuit ones, right? It's like the ace queen that contains the club, or the ace queen that contains like the
Yeah.
diamond. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
but no,
sense.
I'll pick the high card. So like in ace queen, I'll see what suit the ace would
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Do
that's how
you
I
do
randomize.
you use splitting also post flop? Do you use this range splitting also post flop? Like, I'm pretty sure sometimes I might check that river straight. Sometimes I might bet that river straight. Right?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you use
For
that?
sure.
And
Yeah. For sure.
if so, how do you quantify that?
Well, actually, the most important factor I normally look at is like the board, like the suits that are currently on the board. So like, in this sense, like, uh, let's say I have four combos of 6-7 on the river that makes the nuts, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I currently hold 6-7 of diamonds, and I kind of want villain to hold diamonds.
Yeah.
So therefore, I should always bomb the river with 6-7 of diamonds first
Yeah.
before considering about other suits.
Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I know
you
that,
get
but
what I'm saying, right?
meaning, let's say with the same hand.
Yeah,
Like if I have, let's say an offsuit hand with straight, right? And I'm pretty
yeah.
sure that I'm supposed to be sometimes betting, sometimes checking. How do you quantify that?
Oh, how do I quantify that?
Yeah.
No, I
Mm,
normally just flip a coin or something.
yeah,
It's like,
maybe this time I'm gonna do this. Maybe this time I'm not gonna. It's like maybe how you feel about it. Like at that certain
mm.
point, is that correct? Or
You
do you
mean
actually
like,
physically flip a coin?
yeah, I do.
Holy
It
shit!
happens very often. Yeah, it happens. Okay, so I started doing this thing after watching Ryan Fee
Mm-hmm,
do it
mm-hmm.
on like live at the bike, and
Okay.
I thought it was pretty cool, and so I just do it. I have coins on my table all the time, so I do
Holy
it.
shit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but most of my decisions don't come down to that. Like I look at other factors, like their aggression factor and all that. It really never comes down to flipping a coin. Maybe like once a session, like in 5 hours
Mm-hmm,
or something.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it never really goes to that
Wow,
stage.
that's literally flipping a coin. It's fucking awesome. Well done. So at this point, I also input like bet sizes and everything because out of position 3-bet. So we need bet sizes for out of position. So I kind of put in like 1/3 and then pot, sort of for like
Yep.
flop. I think mostly default is like 1/3 or 1/4. I just approximate that to 1/3, and you can go pot because you can go like the really really aggressive way. I doubt this is an option. This is generally used, but I just put it there to not just put like only 33%. Turn is for out of position 33, 66, 100, and shove. And
Yep.
reverse 33, 66, 100, 200, and shove. And for in
Okay.
position 33 and pot, turn is 50, 75, or 150. Do you agree with these sizings?
Yeah, if you review OTB hands, he loves to overbet on
Yeah.
the turn and on the flop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then river 66, 100, 150. This is in position. And add all in for every turn and every river.
Yep. Nice.
And for raise sizes, I mostly input like 66%. I calculated it down to 0.33% of the pot, which generally for like a 500 would mean, I don't know, like 1.5 chips, which
Yeah, it's
is
pretty accurate.
less than uh, around, I think, one blind per 100, somewhere around that. So
Yep.
I think we're good. I think we're good. So if we go in this hand, actually, and you look a little bit at the strategy of out of position, right? So it's like right on the flop, right? So we 3-bet,
Yep.
we get called. It's right on the flop. We have ace 4 10, And then we see that out of position on this board should never check, which we get that. So this is actually quite interesting because it went like a check. And my assumption that we'd bet range on this flop was actually correct, which I'm very surprised at. Yeah, it's okay. So we choose, what I see here is that we polarize some of the really, really good range, which I'd also think that we do with like the stronger aces, like the ace king, the ace queen, some of the ace 10, which I'm actually surprised we're not betting, but I guess we're just blocking too much of opponent's calling range. That's why it's not great. And we're also betting, so we're including some of these gut shots that have mostly, actually, if you see that we're including the clubs, so we can continue barreling with them like a lot. If you see like with the suits here, with like King Jack suited, for example, King Jack of clubs is almost pure. Queen Jack of clubs is almost pure, right? So this is actually pretty cool. Let's see, ace jack is a top pair. Okay, yeah, king queen of clubs actually takes a bit more. But king queen we're not betting that often because it can win sometimes at showdown, so I understand that. Betting some 10-9s, especially the 10-9 of clubs. So it really, really loves pair plus backdoor to be betting here in a spot where we're polarizing. And the rest of the range is kind of like bet 1/3 for like all of it.
Yeah.
To be honest, in like a real game, I would probably just bet 1/3 with like full range, which I think is also fine. I don't think you lose too much EV because of that, but still polarizing makes sense. One of my problems, like I wanted to actually ask you, do you always like balance bluff?
You mean on the flop or on the river?
Generally, do you
I
always like
I'm
calculate?
s- I'm someone who over bluffs. I feel like I care too much about blockers,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so I tend to make bluffs in scenarios where the opponent has already shown to be really strong. But I always convince myself that that's GTO and stuff. But I've been trying to tone it down, and I think I can see it in my win rate, like it's improving because like, well, not many players can play a really good GTO game,
Mm.
and most of the time when they do have it, they really do act like they have it, and when they don't, they just check and give up on the river in big pots. That's the general consensus I get. And sometimes when they bet huge, I think I over bet raise them too much on the river, and
Yeah.
I think I'm bluffing them too much in that spot. In spots where
Yeah.
like let's say I have on a paired board and I have like the blockers to the full house and all that, even though
Yeah. Yeah.
he has trips, that kind of thing. Yeah, but I think that applies more to PLO compared to no limit.
Yeah.
If
Yeah. I understand that.
you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Blocker play. Uh, but in no limit, I think my river bluffing is pretty GTO. My turn raising, maybe that's where my leaks are. Like, when you raise the turn, they call it the race of death because yeah, people who raise the turn don't normally bluff. Like it's always,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Always,
right,
always. You bet
yeah,
twice, you get raised on turn. People don't balance that shit out. And also, if you don't
yeah,
get raised, then on the river you can just overbet because they're just gonna fold too
right.
much because they
So
raise turn for value always, and they just have these crappy hands that otherwise they just fold turn with or just call and try to hit the river. And then if they don't, on like a blank river, you can just go berserk and just bluff
right,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's very exploitative
yeah,
in
and
that
it's
sense.
it's it's a common leak, isn't it?
Yep, it is. It really is, and it's something that I've been trying to work on in many spots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So also like checking this chart, our polarized range is mostly basically, um, so it's basically like ace king, ace queen, and flush draws. Small flush draws are being bet a lot, and the fours. See, like the fours are being bet. 6-4 and 5-4 suited are kind of almost always being bet. But also ace four suited is not being bet because again it blocks opponent's calling range. I think so. That's why we're
Yep.
checking this two pair.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go node lock mode, I think. I think I need to select turn first, right? Because we checked. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a weird thing. I'm gonna go ahead and node lock check. Where is it? Set strategy and lock node. Node lock check full range, if that makes sense. So
You mean for OTB?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, for like flop, just none, right? Here, betting none and going full check mode on the flop. I know this is not correct, but I would like to see, yeah, sort of. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, this works.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so we node lock the check, and then we see that, of course, in position can't really bluff that, can't really like bet that much, right? Just
Yeah.
some random like a two pair, right? Pocket tens, pocket fours, of course, and then some bluffs like lower pairs, threes, and deuces, and betting the fours, right, for a little bit of protection plus equity, and maybe some of the other whatnot, like some flush draws sometimes, very very rarely. So I was expecting this because. In position has out of position, so Baron has range advantage here. I'm just gonna say like Baron and helmets so that it's a lot clearer. I believe on this board on ace 4-10 that Baron has range advantage because he has like aces, right? He has tens.
Yeah.
Helmets does have fours, which Baron I would say very rarely has. You don't 3-bet fours versus button from big blind. You just call them and you're happy to see a flop. Pretty much, but ace 10 suited, right, stuff like that. So I would say range advantage. So helmets can't really bet much here, right? He can only maybe like polarize a little bit, but that's it. You can't really do much, and I would expect a lot of checking to happen. So I'm actually going to node lock this too, to checking entire range because I think that's what can happen, to make it a bit more interesting, right?
Yeah.
So node lock checking entire range, and then move to the turn, which is the 8 of hearts. We get 8 of hearts. So now the action comes down, and we see that Pio actually prefers, after just checking these ranges, he goes back to the strategy of going just 1/3 pot, right? We see Baron went for like 70% pot, which is, to me, it feels kind of like polarizing a little bit. Maybe he doesn't care that much about the other parts of his range and just wants to get some sort of value here.
I wouldn't play that size. I would actually play 1/3. Like you don't really like, okay, if you were trying to value bet in the Baron shoes, like honestly, villain's range is really capped. So 1/3 gets you a lot of value.
Yeah.
And if you were bluffing with a hand like 7-6, right?
Yeah.
1/3 is all you need. You don't really have to, really go big to try to push
Yeah,
him
you
off a hand.
can go big on the river then.
Yeah,
Right?
because
So
if he has 10x or ace x, he's calling no matter what, and you can't do anything about it unless you like bet 1,000 or something.
yeah, that's really true. That's really true.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to get protection from like some more value from like draws or whatnot. He doesn't seem like he's playing range. He seems like he's playing mostly hand here.
Yeah.
So that's what
It's either that or he's just trying to.
I think
build
that
stack
you
pot
could
ratio.
just polarize like this combo draw, right? It's a special case. I guess you could make like a point for making 5 bet sizes on any spot, right? By the way, I had like a really interesting question for you. This is something that has been in my mind for a while. Sure, GTO ranges pre-flop get calculated and stuff like that, right? So, but you don't have enough computing power to actually put in like multiple pre-flop sizes. It would just be a huge clusterfuck, right? So, do you think that the next GTO approach, when technology evolves, kind of would be to have ranges split out into multiple sizings pre-flop?
Ooh, that's a that's a really interesting one. But
Because you could do that. You could do like 4x with aces, kings, and lower part of your range, right? Or like a wider array. I'm just giving an example, right? But it's kind of how it is.
I mean, you could. I'm actually quite sure if someone had the computing power to do it,
That's the way it
the
would turn
GTO
out,
solution.
right?
Yeah, right. But it's such a hard thing to like execute because from what I know in high stakes, like a lot of people have been trying this under the gun limping strategy. I mean, when I mean high stakes, not the stakes that I'm playing, but like the stakes that OTB and Linus are playing.
The stakes that we're watching right now, yeah.
Yeah, right. And I think this guy called O Human O. I don't know whether he's still trying it.
O
But
Human O is Liviu Ignat, who's actually also Romanian. So I've actually talked to him Like,
I'm not sure whether he tried it, whether he was the one who tried it. But yo, those things are really hard to balance. I mean, it's really simple when you say stuff like, oh, when I have aces, I limp, and then when someone raises me, I re-raise. Like that's easy, right? But what are you gonna do with like how you gonna balance that? Like you're gonna throw in some 7-6 suited, you're gonna throw in some 7-8 suited,
yeah,
and then
yeah, maybe
some
like king H suited and stuff like that, you know?
yeah, right. And like one day OTB is gonna look at it, review his hands and say something like, oh, okay, so when he does re-raise, limb re-raise pre-flop, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He, I know that he has aces. That's the first thing. And the second thing is he has hands like 7-8 and 8-9, like
Yeah, yeah,
stronger suited
yeah,
connectors, right? So
yeah.
therefore, when he does a pre-flop raise like a standard one, right? He
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
doesn't have all his hands in his range, and then this whole countering game starts to happen, and like Rex try to exploit Rex. So like this
Yeah,
game could get
exactly,
crazy.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
and it's so hard to execute.
if people would think that I'd have like aces and bluffs whenever I did that, I would only do that with bluffs. If
Yeah,
I got, yeah,
yeah,
like
because
I
it's
would
so
only do.
strong. It's so strong. But the thing is that like if high stakes players were to do that, right, they would spend so much time studying each other's game
Yeah,
that it wouldn't make sense. So
absolutely.
from yeah, right. So if I'm OTB, I just want to play that range that I know and I've been sticking with for the past few years. And like no matter what other people throw at me, whether they're limping under the gun, they're limping on the button, I'm just gonna play my range and it's GTO. I know it's GTO, so
Mm-hmm,
screw
mm-hmm,
them.
mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna do whatever I want, and you can make money off
Exactly,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm thinking that it could go like to even like 5 raise sizes somewhere between like either 2x and 4x or 2x and 3x, like 2.2, 2.4, 2.6, especially for like wide ranges. Like when you're opening button, you could go for like 5 different sizes. Like remember how I don't know if you know like True Teller used to have like 5 different raising ranges and sizings on flops, like heads up. And that would
What?
be like very yeah, yeah, yeah. At some point he'd have his shit so balanced that at some point he would play heads up and have like 5 different raise sizes on flops, and he just balance them out, right?
Wow.
So
Yes.
just to confuse you, because the ranges are really wide there, so you can't really read into like, okay, this is the biggest raise size and this is aces and this is not and whatnot. Yeah. So he'd have that. He would have that. Multiple raise sizes on different flops that could allow that in like heads
Wow,
up.
that's crazy. Okay, as in, well, I started playing poker playing heads up hypers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I do most of my win rate actually comes from playing heads up. Well, not most, but like 10-20%.
Yeah.
And like as someone who plays a lot of heads up, I still think that's something really really tough to pull off. Really tough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, it's
It's
like
crazy
really,
stuff.
really, really hard. That's why I think he didn't manage to. He didn't manage to go through with it. You don't see that often. But anyways,
Yeah.
okay. So yeah, the 1/3 is recommended to try to get value from your opponent's check back range, right? So that it's kind of like sort of like a delay flop stab, sort of delay flop, very wide
Yep.
range bet. The 8 doesn't change much. It just brings some more draws, and another set for like in position, so it kind of helps him a little bit. So I'd say that at this point we can just go towards this line, like the betting 165. But our guy, he didn't bet 165. He bet like 70%. So we're gonna actually force here betting the 331. We could go for like, I don't know. We could go for like just actually putting in some sort of range there. But I'll go for like bet 165 and call. No, sorry, bet 501 call. Wait. I'm fucking up. Bet 331 call, right? So right now
Okay.
on the river, we need to see what we're interested in is Helmet's range for calling a shove. So our river is the 5 of spades, right? So I'll input
Yeah.
the 5 of spades on the river, and we jam. I see some queen 10 suited here, and I'm impressed. I see the queen 10
Yeah.
of spades, right? Because it doesn't block
Yeah.
opponent bluffs. Very interesting. All right, I see some queen 10 here, and I'm just like baffled, man. Like I'm baffled here
Wow.
to see something like this. Some ace queen suited, some ace jack, right? And ace queen
Is it
suited.
crazy to you that Queen 10 suited is a call before King 10 suited?
No,
No?
no, I don't think so. Um,
Wow.
or
All right,
or
okay.
it could be
Okay, hear
because
this out.
yeah, sure.
Okay, so
I think I know what you're thinking. That ace king is more of a bet, more of a
uh
shove on the river
no,
than like
not
ace
not
queen.
really.
No, okay.
Because if I'm Helmet, I want OTB to be holding a queen. Because he can be bluffing with a hand like Queen Jack. Uh
Oh yeah,
Queen
so
9,
his bluffs are
right.
basically like
Queen X.
queen nine,
Queen
queen
X king.
jack,
Yeah.
king queen was a check on the flop, and then probably
Yeah.
not betting on turn, so it's just a check down. So we've got what, like queen
Yeah.
jack, right? Maybe king
Yeah. And
jack.
queen,
Yeah, but we also
yeah.
have like king jack, but then we don't have bluffs with the 8. So you're right. We want him
Yeah.
more to have.
The queen.
Yeah, we want him more to have the queen. Interesting.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing that's standing out to me.
That's some really like in-depth analysis. Nice. Um, my surprise and something that I've learned recently is that we don't call ace 9 here, but the really small aces are good because they don't block bluffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
One of the things that I'm surprised about, but also not so much, is that we also full call with the ace 3 of diamonds, right? Because
Yeah.
it should not be a great hand to call, considering we have the diamonds and we block his bluffs. But considering we have the ace of diamonds, right, and then the 3 of diamonds, he doesn't have that many flush draws with containing the 3 of diamonds. I would see why this is better than a ace 9 call or even an ace jack call. Like we
Oh
call
wait,
with
but
the ace jack of diamonds more than with the
we
ace. Yeah.
we wouldn't mind him having the ace of diamonds because if he has the ace of diamonds, that wouldn't really like be a bluff, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. So like what ace 3 is a call because we hold 3 of diamonds and we don't mind holding 3 of diamonds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because his flop I mean his turn diamond betting range wouldn't really hold any 3 diamonds because like he doesn't 3 bet any of those pre-flop,
Yeah.
if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And like holding the ace of diamonds or any ace doesn't really matter because like well actually you want to hold an ace
Yeah,
because like
because you're
if you don't
blocking his
hold then you're
value
dead.
range. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're blocking
Yeah.
hands like ace king, ace of diamonds, king of hearts. Right.
Yeah.
So nice. So our calling range on the river is mostly ace queen, as per and 6-7, of course.
Mhm.
Some jack 10 suited, which is half of the time jack 10 of spades, and
Mhm.
queen 10 suited. Do you actually make these calls like when you're playing live? Is it really really hard to figure this one out?
Uh
Or do you have like in every hand when somebody just overbets, you're thinking, okay, what are my best bluff catchers here, and you just call those?
well my thought process is actually more simple where like I break down what hands I could possibly reach this river with.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say all these hands, right? And then the second thing I'll think about is the blockers.
Yeah.
Like what blockers I don't want to hold, right? And then the third is where am I exactly in my range? So if let's say I argue to call something like Queen 10, then I'll tell myself, oh wait, but a hand like Ace Deuce, Ace 3, Ace 5, Ace 6 is a better call. But it's really hard to estimate like, okay, so you know that there are hands that are better than Queen 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many combos of each are there? That's the hard part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Jesus.
Because even if you do figure out like okay, I have 4 combos of Ace Queen suited, right? I have 16 combos of Ace Queen off, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many combos does your whole entire range have? Because like if you take time to add them all up, it'll give you something like 300 or 400,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially when you're
and
just calling down, you have so many.
right. So it's really tough, but I think Queen 10 is like pretty close. But if you okay, if let's say you do throw so many like suited aces into your calling range
Mm-hmm.
after
Mm-hmm.
someone does 3 bet you, then yeah, you gotta tone down on the Queen 10. But if let's
Yeah,
say
and call more suited aces, more top pairs.
right, if let's say because in my shoes, right, I would be 4 betting Ace 5, Ace 3, and Ace Deuce. So this doesn't really like appear in my range. So Queen 10 becomes like a snap. If you get what I'm saying. Yeah,
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So it's like closer, but like not that close as well.
It's kind of hard though. So listen to this because it kind of makes sense to me. But isn't it absolutely the same if you have queen 10 with a range So opponent has the same range versus you, right?
Yeah.
Opponent has like absolutely the same range versus you. Isn't it just the same if you have queen 10, if you have a ace high heavy uh range and you end up overcalling just a little bit with the queen 10, or having a non ace high heavy and queen 10 being more towards the top of your range? Or
Hmm.
isn't it the same if your opponent has the same range?
Wait, could you repeat that again? That was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
confusing
yeah.
too.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's confusing to me too
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
why
yeah.
I'm asking, right? Isn't it the same thing? Your
Yeah.
opponent plays the same hand, right? You have two
Yep.
calling ranges pre-flop. One that
Yep.
doesn't contain that many suited aces, one that contains a lot of suited aces. You have queen 10 in both cases. You get to the river, your opponent shoves. Isn't it the same thing if you call both queen 10s?
Both queen tens as
Both
in.
both times. So,
Well,
yeah.
I don't think like well, it's more of like you have to call, like in this case, 33% of your range.
Mhm. Mhm.
So PO, based on the pot odds and how the action is played out, right? PO decides that, okay, you know what, as like hero has to call 33%, right?
Yeah.
But how do I build this like 33% into my
Okay, it
calling range?
chooses the
Because
best hands. It chooses the best hands.
right,
So you respect the frequency of the call on the river only, right?
right. But in my opinion, Queen 10 suited calling here and
Hmm.
calling with like pocket deuces is like kind of the same thing because you only beat a bluff, right? Like Baron is not
Yeah,
going to jam you
yeah.
8x. Like how often does he do that as a bluff? Like he would rather just, take his showdown value and just check down, right?
I think it would
So it's
actually really be the same as with deuces, because with queen 10 you might block some bluffs, and with deuces you unblock bluffs, but you also unblock like his value. So it's kind of like, yeah, I agree.
yeah, but
My question is, look, my question is, if let's change this range up, right?
mm,
Erase
mm,
everything. You have uh pocket pocket fours, pocket sorry, four is a set. You have pocket sixes, pocket threes, and pocket deuces, right? You're supposed to
yep,
be defending 33%.
yep.
Let's say maybe sixes could have some could block some bluffs, right? Do you call
Yep.
threes and that's it? Because that's one
Do
third of
I
your
call
range.
trees and
Yeah.
that's it? Yeah, I think I would. Like from a GTO
Yeah,
perspective, I
from
I think you
GTO
gotta do it.
perspective, not
Yeah,
not
you
let's
gotta
not
do it.
say that opponent is under bluffing. Let's say that he's bluffing enough. Do you just call threes and that's it?
Yeah, because blocker theory doesn't really come into play, right?
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. So based on GTO, yeah, that completely really makes sense. Like you
So
gotta call the trees in this one.
yeah, blocker theory only applies to sixes because it might block some of his bluffs. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So or sixes maybe sixes blocks 6-7. So that's great. So we call that, right?
yeah. And that's why in this case, like 7-6 is a snap compared to like Queen 10 suited, right? So because of the blocker
No, but
theory, like that's.
7-6 has a straight.
Oh yeah, 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 right. Sorry. Wait, are there any other pocket pairs that are in there?
Sorry. You want me to
No.
show Pio
No,
again?
okay. No, it's okay.
We have some
Yeah,
eights
well, in my opinion, like Queen 10 and like a hand like, let's say 8-7, I would probably call 8-7 first before Queen 10.
because you're
Like,
blocking the straight and you're blocking the set. Yeah, I agree.
right,
I
right.
agree. That's
But
a way better bluff catcher.
In Pio's opinion, like uh OTB has like so little straights in this scenario that maybe
Mm-hmm.
like it really doesn't matter, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if like on the fly, I didn't know like what's going on, like as in I don't know how the board is gonna run out, right?
Yeah.
So this is my thought process, and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stick with my thought process, like how I play the game. So therefore, I always call 8-7 before Queen 10.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah,
Sounds very, very, very reasonable. I'm still learning a little bit about Pio and some of this stuff. I don't play No Limit 1 million, so I don't need this stuff yet. I mostly know how to play my hands well and a little bit my ranges, but I understand a lot because I've coached people that were playing like way, way higher than me and successfully. I'm pretty happy about that. So I'm
that's
getting
really
into
nice.
Pyro really, really hard. I also have Poker Snowy and I play with him sometimes, but I kinda beat him. Like it's
Yeah,
not that hard to beat 5 other Poker Snowy opponents.
When was the last time you played against Snowy?
I could actually tell you that. Has it been like updated quite a lot, or did it mine hands?
I mean, it gets better every day because it plays with itself 24 hours
Oh, it
all the time.
does. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So it
Okay.
gets better. So you should like try to play with him like every month or so because he really gets good real fast.
Actually, 6 months ago.
Yeah, so you should give it a try again. You know, it's been a long time. He plays 24 hours every day, every minute.
Okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I thought Poker
yeah.
Snowy, like how they created the Poker Snowy algorithm, was importing billions and billions of hands and making it figure out like how it works and how what works and what doesn't work. I
No, I
remember.
think that was the start. That was the start. Then they got six Snowies to play against each other all the time.
Okay. So it's
Yeah,
so
so
it's basically like
like a simulation, like a pure simulation all over and over and over again.
okay. That's nice. It's
Yeah,
basically like machine learning and stuff like that, like how they
yeah.
solved chess and yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
That's right.
Interesting. All right, so next spot is so I have hands that I pioed and I have hands that I haven't pioed because I didn't think that would matter. The questions
Yeah,
are
cool.
simpler in these hands that I haven't pioed. So this is really interesting. We have a cold four bet from the big blind. This is Baron versus Lux Poker, so I expect ranges to be pretty wide. I expect Lux Poker to call with a lot of pairs that he three bets in position. So basically, first of all, I would assume that Lux Poker would three bet his entire range here and not call too much. Is
Yep,
that assumption
agree.
correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Because blind squeeze a lot. And then how the game has evolved at higher stakes is basically raise 3-bet, 4-bet, call, pretty much. Or you don't see cold calls to 3-bets too much.
Yeah, because in Monka, that's like it's not Monka proofed anymore. Like people have found out that like GTO doesn't believe in cold calling preflop.
GTO does not believe in. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we see a cold 4-bet, we see a call. And we see a bit less than third pot bet, right? And we
Yep.
see a raise here. So I'd say until now this hand is standard. I'd say that Lux Poker's range might be like a lot of pairs that he three bets in position, like maybe something like first middle position. I would say maybe it's like 7s or 8s plus. Am I correct?
Um,
Button versus MP should be like 7s plus or 8s plus. Suited
yeah,
connectors,
yeah. But
suited
I wouldn't call.
broadways, ace king, ace
Yeah.
queen, stuff like
Yep,
that.
yep,
Right? Okay.
yep, yep.
So we see a check raise on the flop, and at this point, I would say that value range would be 7s, 8s, right? And
Yep.
that's kind of
Ace
it
king.
because he doesn't have like. I kind of would say that I don't like this raise too much, but then Baron doesn't have 8s and 7s because he called for bet pre, and that's pretty hard to have 8s and 7s in your range when you're doing
Yep.
that. So I would say that versus 1/3 full range, this could be quite efficient if you're bluffing enough. And I'd say that Lux's range would be here 5-6 suited, 9-10 suited, right?
Yep.
I think some flush draws, like high flush draws, like ace high flush draws, and then calling some of the lower flush draws, not gambling with them pretty much. So we have 9-10 suited, we have 5-6 suited, we've got 8s and 7s, maybe, and 8-7 suited, of course. That's also true.
Yep.
Okay, so Edwin's and stuff says, I never knew that. I knew Snowy played itself, but I thought Snowy already worked out GTO. You can't really work out GTO because you don't have GTO ranges pre-flop yet. When I purchased Snowy, I thought I was playing against a GTO expert. Don't get me wrong. When you get Snowy, you are playing against a GTO expert, but GTO is kind of like
Yeah.
evolving. It's very hard. If you'd have GTO solved for poker, there would probably not be that much poker going on.
Right. Well, GTO is about trying different sizings, right? Like even if you have the GTO solution for pre-flop raising 3x, you didn't try 6x, so you never know that might actually be the solution.
Yeah. Or for a part of your range, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure that when poker gets solved, it's something really weird. Like, we're here battling out with like 2x preflop sizes and stuff like that, and then some GTO solver Google comes in and says, "Hey, we're gonna solve this." Boom, 8x raise preflop.
Yep.
Three bet pots without the three bet, and like bang. It's like it's gonna be something really weird. You're gonna look at that, and you're gonna look at what we're discussing now, and you're gonna be like, "What the actual fuck, man? Like, why were we doing such complicated things and keeping the pot small?"
Yeah, my guess is that min 4 betting is gonna be a thing.
Min four betting is a ridiculous strategy that is actually pretty efficient versus some people.
Yeah, it
Also,
is.
like min called for betting and stuff like that, especially in position, it's bullshit, man. Like it's
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's kind of like the range that I'm putting him on, and like Baron shoves, we see me. I was not expecting a fold anytime soon here, right? When we see this raise, do we actually have fold equity here if
No.
we jam? No.
I no. Maybe out of like 10 times you get like once. You
And
get you
what
get
would
a
that
fold
hand
once.
be? Would that hand be maybe like Jack nine suited?
Um,
Some sort of Jack nine of spades.
five,
Sorry,
six of diamonds.
five six of diamonds.
Yeah, like if I were to play it like Lux, right? If I wanted
Mhm.
to include
Mhm.
a check raise bluffing
Yeah.
range, I would bluff something like five, six of diamonds because
Can you fold five six of diamonds to this shove?
yeah, of course, man, I'm definitely folding five, six of diamonds to this shove. Like what are
Okay.
the odds you're getting? You need like 1.3 to win
You
700 or
see, like
something.
up there, it says like 33.4% pot
Yeah,
odds.
I don't think you have 33.4 with five, six.
You
You
have,
have like
yeah, you'd have
you have like 22.
maybe like a 30, somewhere around that. Yeah, open and straight draw.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but what if your opponent also shoves some draws? Don't you have it then with like 5-6?
well, it's not.
Because Baron is
No, I
supposed to
don't.
shove some draws.
Right. I think if Baron is shoving something like 9, 10 of hearts, and you have like 5, 6 of diamonds, I still think you have less than 30%.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Overall,
like
yeah.
yeah, unless OTB is bluffing with something like deuces, like that's probably the only hand that you have like decent equity with. No, and it's OTB. I honestly expect something like that from him. Like
Cold
even him
four bet
shoving,
deuces.
yeah, even him shoving like ace queen, even him shoving ace queen in this spot, right? It's I still think he has higher equity than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ace queen. Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So 5, 6 of diamonds, like to me, it's like you re-raise the flop, right? You gotta let it go, man. And if you really want to play with like pot odds, like, you should have raised smaller. That's my advice for
So
Lux.
if you raise here and you mostly
Uh,
break the turn, do you jam 5-6 diamonds and continue with like eights and sevens and jam the 5-6?
uh, I think with a hand like eights and sevens, right? If the
Yep.
turn is not like a really dynamic one, like let's say the deuce of diamonds, right?
Okay.
I might actually,
You can
well,
find
I
some
would actually,
checks.
yeah, I would find some checks. Yeah,
All
because
right.
I really want to check 5, 6 of diamonds once the turn comes, because I really want to see a free card. You know,
Okay.
like yeah,
Nice. All right. So we see the shove, and uh, it was 5-6 of
wow,
spades. So you've got like an extra equity from the back door. Extra like 2%? Is that 2% from the back door?
yeah,
Sort of like
yeah,
that.
something like that,
And
something like
King
that.
Jack. It's just like
What?
what
Okay, okay,
is
the 4 bet pre is standard. I feel.
Yeah, King Jack
Like
suited would
I would do the
be
same. Yeah.
a nice four bet, and then simple full range raise jam.
Yeah, I think OTB kind of like overvalued his hand in a sense, but he probably has some read that Lux is like
Yeah,
super aggro.
that's
Because
my
like King
thought
Jack is,
exactly.
yeah, like King Jack is really not doing well against like a hand like King Queen, Ace King that really wants to stack off. That's the first one. And even against bluffs, right? You have like 55 maybe, and that's not really like awesome. Like you don't like slam dunk shove, King Jack and like like fist pump and you're like winning
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So it's not really. It's like kind of like,
I
well,
think it's
maybe it's
like
just
maybe like a wider value exploitative shove.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or maybe he
Actually,
just yeah.
I think OTB is better off like just calling the the flop raise. Like one thing I don't see a lot in no limit hold'em players is uh like calling raises instead of just shoving over and then like uh seeing a turn depending on how like no I mean seeing how the turn affects
Yeah,
playing
like
the back.
if we're to be frank here, Lux Poker, if he has a flush draw, for example, he's
Yeah,
not folding at any point. So it's the
yeah,
same
right.
thing if you jam or call, right? So
Yeah. So if
it's
let's say the turn comes like six of hearts, right,
Mhm.
and luck shoves, right, you know you're beat for
Yeah,
sure because
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
he has king queen, he has ace king, or like, and that's like the
And
worst of his
flushes and some
range. Yeah,
straights.
and
Yeah.
flushes and straights. So like you can get away from turns like that. And if let's say the turn were to come like a three of diamonds or something, right, you
hmm
always have the option of just shoving the turn yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
leading. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is something like no limit players like need to learn.
This is
And like
this is an
Omaha players
Omaha
are good at.
skill I take, right?
Right, right, right. So it's something that I feel like no limit players should like. If you really want to get good, like include this in your PO solving stuff and like your range because it really helps you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice. Yeah, yeah, lead jam. Yeah, I always put that. Oh, you mean yeah, donking. Yeah, yeah, got it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't.
I could. Yeah, no, in Pio he says donking because it's like after imposition bets turn goes like check usually. So I could actually yeah, I'll remember that. I'll remember that. So
Yeah.
yeah, luck box 5-6. What the hell? And then that's kind of it. Yeah, I was the same. Like wow, the fuck is going on?